Welcome back to the Fighting Saints Report. Jack Milewski, Jim Leitner, and it was a busy month of November for the Fighting Saints, but overall a very successful month for Dubuque as they're able to, in their final week of November, come out with 2 out of a possible 3 wins, 4 out of a possible 6 points. And this is a team that has had contributions up and down the lineup. Only 3 losses, I should say, in the month of November, but 8 wins for the Fighting Saints, a fantastic month, with most of those games being played on the road, at least to end the month. A 6-5 split, 6 at home to start, 5 on the road to end. And there were some great performances individually that I think stood out above the rest. Again, the whole team playing very well, but we're going to get into our 3 stars right now. We'll go 3-1 if you want to kick things off with your 3rd star of the month.
Can I do my honorable mention, guys?
Sure, we can do some HMs.
Well, I had some guys that I thought really kind of flew under the radar in their efforts. I thought were really good. Reggie Millette, Ben Schulteis, and Kalen Taylor. Those 3 guys they don't necessarily put up the big points. You know, they're guys who kind of fly under the radar, outstanding defensively, and I think that's really a hallmark of this team so far is the way they've been playing defensively, the way they've killed penalties in key situations. And Reggie, Ben, and Kalen, I thought were outstanding in the way they contributed to the team without putting up the big points. You look at the USHL honors every week; they honor the guys who put up the big points.
Yep.
And I think these guys deserve a lot of credit for the effort they've given. And but there are a lot of guys who should have got honorable mention. I kind of feel bad for not.
I was going to say I'll throw in 2 more HMs because we love to break the rules here. But a lot of people do deserve credit here. I thought Antonio Venuto and Jimmy Glynn have gone from good pieces in the bottom 6 to now giving the Fighting Saints really 3 deep lines with the way they played at the end of the month. You have Cherametta on that line with Venuto and Glynn, and that was the best line for the last 2 weekends for the Fighting Saints. Now you can roll 3 lines that all have scoring threats. Them stepping up from just role players to actual offensive threats, pretty good. And I think Robert Cronin took the next step at the end of this month as well, and that was partly because he was brought up from the bottom line to play some top 6, top 9 minutes. So really a lot of guys to choose from. But if we can get into our 3 stars here, these are guys that I think, separated themselves even more from those honorable mentions. Not many players had bad months for the Fighting Saints, but who's your number 3?
I'm going to go with Reese Gaber. 11 games, had 10 points, 6 goals, 4 assists, and it seemed like he always came up with big goals when they needed them. And that's what you expect from one of your guys in your leadership group. And I just look back at the game where he got popped in the nose and came back and scored 2 goals, and they were 2 highlight reel goals, and I'm sure they were on USHL Play of the Week goals. But he's a guy who's been so consistent and so hard nosed, and a guy that everybody really looks up to. And in Des Moines the other night, he was playing on a bad ankle, and wanted to play. He did not want to be taken out of the game because he loves the game so much. And I know the coaches made an example of him after the game and showing the team how much if you love the game, you don't feel that pain as much. And he's just a tough, hard-nosed kid, and had a great month.
Yeah, Reese Gaber, a fantastic month. My 3rd star is actually one of your honorable mentions, but I had to throw Ben Schulteis up there. 3 goals this month. All of them came in the last weekend. He had 1 goal against Des Moines and 2 against Fargo. And that 2-goal game against Fargo, the first 2-goal game for a Fighting Saints defenseman since Kalen Taylor did it last year in Madison in February. He had a regulation goal and an overtime winner. But it's just the 6th time a Fighting Saints defenseman has had a 2-goal game in the Tier 1 era. I was looking through stats. You would think it might be a little bit more, but it is tough to get a couple goals in this league, let alone 2 from the blue line. So Ben Schulteis, for that reason, he was a +6 on the month. And the USHL doesn't keep track of hits or blocked shots, but I promise you he's leading this team in hits, and he's right up there with Luke Robinson in terms of block shots. I think those 2 have to be 1-2. Robinson might edge him there, but it was a great month for Schulteis, and he's really been a key contributor for the Fighting Saints. 5 points in 18 games from the blue line. He had 3 points in 22 games all of last season for Green Bay. He's definitely taken the next step.
No doubt about it, and he's a guy that the Fighting Saints have really coveted since last season when he was in Green Bay, and they weren't quite able to get him last season, but they were able to draft him, and I know the Fighting Saints were really excited to get him in the draft. And I think he's been, you look at what he did in Green Bay last year, he's been so much better than that and really taken that next step and, a great example of an extra year of development.
Yep.
My number 2 is, I'm going to fudge the rules, as I always do.
Yeah.
My number 2 is a co-number 2, and it's the Jackson twins. Ty and Dylan, both of them had 11 points in 11 games. Average a point a game. That averages a point a game by my math.
Yep. That's the easy math that we like to do here.
Yeah, that's the only math I like to do. But again, those
only math you like to do, or only math you can do?
Well, true. That's a good point.
Both.
Good point. But those two guys have really taken. It's so exciting. You look back at how they were last year. They weren't quite as consistent, and I thought last year they had a great start, kind of hit a wall, and really, it took them a while to figure things out again. But this year they've come out guns a-blazing, and they've gotten that great start, and they've continued that. They've maintained that good start, and teams are having a hard time figuring them out and how to stop them, which is something that they did last year. And Ty leads the team with 21 points, and Dylan is right behind him with 20. But I really like how they're playing with grit. They're getting into guys' grills. When after if there's a confrontation or anything like that, they're tougher, they're bigger, they're stronger, and so excited that they decided to come back for a second year of development rather than going to Northeastern this season. And I'm sure they'll agree that this was a great decision to come back.
Yeah, they're making it pay off. And look, last year wasn't a bad year, especially for rookies. They both had over 40 points last year. Now through 18 games, they're both halfway to what their season totals were last year. And you're right, the hot start that they got off to last year really slowed down for honestly December, January, and February before they were able to pick it back up consistently. There's been no slowing down. It's been red hot from the get-go, and if anything, it's actually gotten better. The two biggest things for me, because they're also my number 2 star, I had to cheat as well, but you have to put the Jacksons in the same sentence.
You do.
Their stat lines are almost identical. They're almost like the same person out there. But the two reasons I think they're so much better is, one, you mentioned, they're so much harder on the puck now. Last year, they were easy to push off the puck. They learned it towards the end of last year. I mean, this is just the carryover from what we saw the last month and into the playoffs. They've just gotten better, but they're harder on the puck, and if you're willing to push back and stand up for yourself, then people aren't going to be as hard on you. They're not going to be as willing to go after it. It's one thing if your teammates are standing up for you. It's another thing when you're pushing back yourself. I think that's number 1 for the Jacksons. But number 2 is they're shooting the puck. Yeah. Last year, it felt like until the end of the season, they were really trying to force that wide open passing play, that dunk play, and that's really tough to do in the USHL at any level, to make that perfect pass for a wide open net. This year they're ripping shots, especially Dylan. Ty's taken more of the playmaker role. Dylan has taken more of the shooter role, but there have been multiple times where he's at the top of the right dot on the power play or even strength, and has been able to put a hard, perfect shot in the right place. I think their willingness to shoot and their willingness to go into those areas that you have to go into to score goals and to get points have been the two biggest keys to their transformation into legitimate top players in this league.
Yeah, and I think they're maybe a step quicker, so they're getting plays off a little bit quicker rather than, I think last season when they were struggling a little bit, I think teams collapsed on them or closed on them a little quicker, and then they couldn't get a shot off or they couldn't get that pass off. But they're just a step quicker, and they're really a step ahead of everybody else. And it's been a huge factor. And you take those two guys out of the lineup, and it'd be interesting to see where they are. I don't want to think about that, but,
no.
But they've been really dynamic and really what we've expected from them.
Yeah, they're a step quicker. Part of that's the physical nature of it. You mentioned they got bigger and stronger. I think also it's part confidence. I mean, that's being a step ahead of someone, is knowing that you're going to make the right play before they know what play is being made, and that's also why guys can't close on them, because before they get the puck, they know what they're going to do. Yeah,
and like from my perspective too, in talking to these guys after the game, or when I do talk to them, there's such a difference maturity-wise this year as opposed to last year. Last year it seemed like even when you talked to them, they might have been a little bit tentative, or they might have been a little bit shy. But this year there's just so much confidence, and that's with a year of maturity. And again, I think it was an outstanding decision to come back, and something they're really reaping the benefits of. And for their benefit, when they go to Northeastern next year, they're going to be that much more ready to play and make a difference at Northeastern. So good for them for making that decision.
Well, based on the way this has gone, and also because I cheated and looked at your paper, I know we have the first number one star, but that is Eric Portillo. And we touched on him before in the show, but this month he was 6-2. He had a 1.87 goals against average, and the two games that he lost, the one against Fargo was maybe an anomaly. I mean, he gave up 4 goals. The other goal was an empty netter, but even a couple of those goals were deflections in front that were tough for him to stop. And then the loss against Waterloo was a penalty shot, and against one of the best teams, if not the next best team in the USHL, maybe behind the Fighting Saints or Chicago, whoever you're willing to put number one. But he hasn't let in many, if any, goals that he shouldn't let in. And I think that's a big difference between this year and last year. Matthew Thiessen was fantastic for the Fighting Saints, but he did have a propensity to let in that softie every once in a while. This year, you haven't seen that from Eric Portillo. 6-2 on the month of November, a 1.87 goals against average, and he makes all the saves he should. He makes some that he definitely shouldn't, and some that some can't. And anytime a goal goes in, there's usually a wide open net or a deflection in front. He's just so rock solid.
Yeah, you allowed 15 goals in 8 games. That's outstanding. And 4 straight games allowing just 1 goal. That's hard to do in the USHL. I mean, this is a really good league. But again, I think to your point, I think he's a big guy. Obviously he's a big guy. But he looks really big in the net. I think, last year you mentioned Matthew Thiessen. Again, he's another big guy, but there were times when he didn't look big in the net. He didn't look like he was filling up the net as well as he should have. But Portillo, when he's in the net, he's big, he's athletic, he's quick, and he really fills the net. And, I mean, that's a big key when you're looking at tips or deflections or pucks that the goaltender doesn't even see. When you're big and you fill the net like an Eric Portillo does, you're going to make saves just because they hit your body and you have no idea where the puck is. But again, I think he had an outstanding month, and right now he's third in the USHL in goals against average at 2.13. He's tied for first with 10 wins, and he's fifth with a .910 save percentage. That's elite, and that's exactly what the Fighting Saints were looking for when they drafted him in the first round last year, and a big reason why the Buffalo Sabres took him in the NHL draft. And I know in reading some commentary out of Buffalo, they're really excited about his future. Granted, he's here in Dubuque, and then he's going to go to Michigan for a couple years at least. But Buffalo is really excited about him long term and the development that he's going to make over the next 4 or 5 years. So I would not be surprised to see Eric Portillo making a dent in the National Hockey League, before too long.
Yeah, Eric Portillo, fantastic. The Fighting Saints, fantastic in the month. 8-3 to finish November with plenty of long road trips, a lot of games at home, and now they'll have 4 in December before a lengthy Christmas break, and then 3 more to end the month. 7 total in December, but it almost feels like 2 separate months when you start, then have that long break, and then end. It's Muskegon twice this weekend. December 6th is a family 4-pack night. December 7th is Teddy Bear Toss, and that'll be a great night, as it always is. Quick note, because there's a Fighting Saints alum in Hershey, but the Hershey Bears with another world record on the Teddy Bear Toss last night, 45,000 plus stuffed animals. And I know Zach Fish was walking up to the broadcast booth with his trash bag full of teddy bears and chucking them down when that first goal was scored. But that's an impressive mark for Hershey. That breaks their own world record by, I believe, close to 17,000, if I'm remembering correctly. I think they had about 28,000 last year. They have 17,000 more this year. It's a pretty impressive feat from Hershey.
And more importantly than that, I think it's just an awesome cause. When you look at the Toys for Tots program and the Marine Corps that puts that on, it's an outstanding gesture. And again, it's an example of how the hockey community really goes out of its way to help those that are less fortunate. And it's a wonderful night here in Dubuque when they do it. And It's just a great cause, and I'm glad that the entire hockey world has embraced this. And every team that has one, I think every team pretty much does have one.
Yeah.
But it's great for the local community, and it really speaks a lot about the Fighting Saints not just being a hockey team, but they're a valuable member of the community.
Yeah. So Teddy Bear Toss is Saturday night, family 4-pack Friday night. Then the following weekend, the final game before the holiday break for the team is December 14th, Saturday night against the Green Bay Gamblers. It will be the second matchup between Dubuque and Green Bay this season, with the first one coming the previous night, Friday the 13th. Watch out. Spooky stuff could happen there in Green Bay right before the holiday break. I think that's already the second or third Friday the 13th we've had in 2019, and sometimes you don't get any, but this segment's running long because we're on all kinds of tangents, so we'll have to take a break. We go around the USHL after this, and then it's Christmas time because right when Thanksgiving ends, or in Jim's case, even before Thanksgiving begins, the Christmas decorations go up, the holiday music and the holiday movies are on, so we're going to do a couple wish lists to end this program.